y'all, it's a little different. Sometimes I have to come out alone. You know?
Just call, let us know, we'll be up.
At this time.
Thank y'all for being here this afternoon. I will tell you this has been a good day for the state of Louisiana. We've come a long way from just 10 days ago, and it wasn't pretty. And in many respects, it was harder, I think, than it needed to be. But we all knew that this was going to be a difficult task. Today, we can say confidently we put together a solution that met my key priorities. We will not cut higher education to resolve this mid-year deficit. We're not going to cut K through 12 education. We're not going to adversely impact public safety, the Department of Corrections, the Department of Children and Family Services, and the cuts to our partner hospitals were the minimal cuts that we had come up with in our original plan. So at the end of the day, the process worked, and we can all be proud of that because there was some reason to doubt coming in whether we would be able to work together, as we should, frankly, to have negotiations and compromise and find ourselves at the end of the day in a place where we could say we put the people's business first. And you know you're at a good place when nobody's totally happy, but everybody, or the vast majority, I should say, are reasonably satisfied. Because today, on the final vote of the rainy day resolution, I believe there was 9 members of the House who didn't vote for the $99 million. And there were only 5 votes in the Senate today against the final version of, I guess it was House Bill 3. And so we got to a really good place, I believe. Now, I do have some concerns, and I'm not going to overplay them, but whether the attrition savings are real. But we will start working tomorrow in good faith to identify every dollar that we can save through attrition, through these funded vacancies. But the good news is that the legislation also gives us the ability, the flexibility, to address with cuts whatever attrition dollars are not there. And I believe the final version had $11.9 million of attrition built into the solution, which indicates, as I said at the outset, it was going to be very difficult to agree upon the cuts that would be necessary if we didn't use the rainy day money. At the end of the day, rather than $119 million in rainy day that I wanted to use, the legislature decided that $99 million was the appropriate amount. That's 83% of what I asked for. I'll take that. But if you look at the attrition dollars that were built into that, and you consider that that's additional funding to avoid the cuts that I wanted to avoid, and you add that to the rainy day, that's 93% of what I asked for. And so, obviously, I feel very good about where we wound up. These cuts, however, still are not painless. We have a lot of agencies around the state of Louisiana who, with only 4 months left, are going to have to absorb some very difficult cuts. But we were forced to choose between the best of what were poor options. And in the end, we have a compromise that I believe works. I do want to thank all of the legislators, not just those who are here, Republicans, Democrats, Independents, the House and the Senate. I want to thank the Speaker, the President, for working diligently with me and with one another so that we could find ourselves in this position as we close out the session. I also want to thank the Commissioner of Administration, Jay Darden, who worked extremely hard. One of the things that we were able to use to cushion the blow of these budget reductions was money that we have from GO-Zone debt payments that have actually been owed to the state since Katrina. And Commissioner Darden, working diligently, was able to collect on a couple of those debts this year, and that made a big difference in the successful outcome. And that is recurring revenue because those debt payments will continue going forward. So our ability to find common ground is reassuring, especially in light of the fact that we come back in just over a month for our regular fiscal session that starts in April, where we have to work together to avoid a cliff that happens on July 1st of 2018, where a little over $1 billion worth of revenue falls off the books. And so we have to address that in the April session. And as you're going to learn tomorrow at the Joint Legislative Committee on the Budget, the continuation budget deficit for next year exceeds $400 million. So we still have a lot of work to do. It's going to be hard work, but if we can continue in the vein, I believe that we wrapped up this session in, we're going to be that much further along and positioned to be successful. I've always told you I'm more optimistic about the future of our state every single day. And we're going to make the bold decisions that are necessary so that the frequency of these mid-year budget deficits is less, that we stabilize our state, and we adequately fund our critical priorities. So I want to thank all of you all who are here today for your hard work. A lot of people on the side of the room have worked extremely hard as well. I look forward to continuing to put the state of Louisiana first in everything that we do. And with that, I will take some questions.
Governor, in terms of the working relationship between you and the House, how do you sum that up? Do you feel it's improved or deteriorated this session?
Well, I have to say that because of where we ended up, that it's actually improved. I know I had numerous meetings and discussions, both with groups of members from the House, Republicans and Democrats, and then many meetings with individual legislators. And I will tell you, it got, I thought, progressively better throughout the 10-day session. And again, just judging from the final result, I believe that we have demonstrated that we are able to constructively work together. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Governor, I'm curious, can you tell us what aspect within this final compromise would you say is most problematic?
Well, I think I mentioned it. The most problematic to me is that at the end of the day, rather than using what we knew to be real dollars that were available to us in the rainy day, we chose to use $99 million out of the $119 and then $11.9 out of attrition savings that I think are going to be very, very hard to identify and to go and get in a timely manner as we need to do, because whatever we can't do through attrition, we have to do with reductions to appropriations. And whatever amount of cuts that represents, the sooner we do it, the better, because the longer that these agencies have to absorb those cuts before the end of the fiscal year, the easier they are to absorb. So I believe in terms of the final result, that would be the most difficult part for me. But I don't want to dwell on that, because if you compare that to the overall, I think, positive side of the final package, that the problems are very, very slight.
If we could just follow up, I'm curious, you had called for money from an escrow account held by the Attorney General. We've already heard that that was one of the House conditions of agreeing to the rainy day fund and all of that. I guess, how do you feel about this? This is now multiple times we've seen the Attorney General's budget come up as an issue, and the House has been very protective of that when you propose cuts.
Well, I think you're conflating two things. The escrow account is not his budget. If it was his budget, it wouldn't be in the escrow account. And at the end of the day, I don't believe that the discussion about the escrow account had anything to do with the rainy day fund. That was worked out. That was a function of House Bill 3 and how that conference committee report was going to go. And the legislature, as I see it, didn't weigh into the dispute over where that money should go, the $4 million, because it just left it where it is, in an escrow account. I think that was not the best course of action, because it's very clear to me that $4 million sitting in the escrow, I think it's actually 3.9, million was money that was due to the state of Louisiana, should have been transferred into the general fund a few years ago, in fact. Yes, ma'am.
So to follow up on that, are you going to try to move that money? I guess, I mean, I think the Attorney General intends to spend that money on his own agency. Are you going to go along with that through June 30th?
Well, I don't believe the money's going to be available for him to do that. And so I think what you're likely to see are more discussions between the Attorney General's office and my office about how we move forward with respect to that money.
So you all are going to talk about it? There's not going to be
Well,
legal action?
Well, I don't intend to initiate legal action. I mean, he may do that. I don't know. But the money is in an escrow account that I don't believe is his to access at will, and therefore, you know, it's going to give us an opportunity to continue to work together, hopefully, to resolve that issue.
Do you have any idea how long before the state's back on a firm financial footing where you're not having to fill holes, or you might actually put something in the bank?
Well, you know, that's a good question. I can tell you that we're a heck of a lot better off this year than we were last year. And we are much more stable than we were. The numbers that we're talking about are so much smaller. And, you know, at this point last year, we were $1 billion short to close out the fiscal year that ended June 30th of 2016, and $2 billion short for the fiscal year that started July 1st. So we're making tremendous progress. You know, could we have moved a little further, a little faster? Probably. But I don't want to dwell on that. But we are stabilizing our state. We are being much more responsible with the tax dollars, the way we budget, the honest, transparent way that we're budgeting. And I think that that's paying dividends as we move forward. And, you know, I would very much like to get to the place very, very soon where we're not talking about budget deficits, but we're talking about how we're going to strategically invest in our critical priorities going forward. Yes, ma'am.
Governor, in light of the progress you've made negotiating with the House and the Senate and coming with a compromise, can you give us your prediction of how you really feel the tax reform measures are going to go? Because they were tried last year and failed, and it's many of the same power brokers, if you will.
Well, look, these are difficult issues, and you get people of varying philosophies, and you've got to end up like we did today with enough people who are willing to vote so that by a 2/3 majority you can successfully move these instruments. I think if my crystal ball is right, it'll be harder to do that in April, in the session that starts April, than it was today. And of course, it wasn't very easy to get it done today. But I'm optimistic that we're going to continue on the course. We've done so much good work to stabilize our state and to just to move forward and be more responsible and to you know, protect people from just what would have been horrendous budget cuts that I can't imagine that we're going to go backwards. And so I'm optimistic, but I'm certainly not delusional. It won't be easy.
One last question.
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry to throw you a curveball, I suppose.
I used to hit a curve pretty good. Go ahead.
People at my station and myself really want to know if you still have confidence in Colonel Mike Edmondson as the head of state police in light of what we found out this week about the trip out west.
Well, you know, the information about that I've learned, what I've seen, what I've read, what I've heard from the news media obviously concerns me. That's why I ordered an investigation that will take place that will not be internal to the state police, but in fact, we will use an auditor out of the Division of Administration who will take a complete look at the travel policy and practices in that agency and other issues related to the report, and provide me a full and complete unbiased report. And until I get that, I'm not going to predetermine what the outcome is. I look forward to receiving the report and making whatever decision has to be made at that point. But obviously, I take it seriously based on the investigation that I've ordered. And it's obviously not what we want to have to contend with right now. We have enough other things going on. But we will take it very seriously, and the decision that we will make will be appropriate once the investigation is complete. Thank you all again for being here, and I look forward to having more successful legislative sessions going forward and similar press conferences. Thank you all.